Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Developing Designers. Today we visited with Noah Fischer, Director of Human Resources here at EAPC Architects Engineers. We talked about everything from grant programs for internships. We talked about how to get that first internship and how to turn that first internship into a full-time career. I'm just going to dive right into the questions, Noah. The first one is, what stands out to you when an intern submits a resume or portfolio?
No, that's a good question, Jim. We engage with a lot of college students. We go to a lot of career fairs. We see a lot of resumes. So some of the things that stick out to us when we're reviewing them is the actual formatting, the imagery on it, basically the appearance. Mm-hmm. It's to stand out and to stand apart from your peers. You know, we have a lot of students that are in design. They're very creative thinkers. So incorporating that into your resume is something that right away we can see and pops and separates you.
So speaking of resumes, Are there any red flags? Like if you see an intern's resume and you go right away, oof.
Yeah, I think for me as a recruiter and in talent acquisition, I think when you see a resume where there's very little effort put in, very basic, very plain, sometimes we'll even see people who have used a resume wizard through the Microsoft suite and they'll forget to remove some of the language that comes over from that template. So it's attention to detail. I think from an intern standpoint, not highlighting some of your relevant coursework. Obviously in our industry, we don't expect interns to come to us with a great deal of experience in what we do. But a lot of times a hiring manager wants to know, what types of coursework have you taken? What is your background? What have you been learning so far? Because then that's going to really inform how we can help you apply it when you do start, if you start interning with us.
So I remember back in 2022, we had, I believe, 7 architectural students from NDSU who were interning with us prior to 2022. And we made job offers to each and every one of them, and each and every one of them accepted. Mm-hmm. And I think they're still working for us now in 5 of our offices. Yep. So the question is, how does an intern make themselves worthy of a job offer? Like in that case, we offered all 7. So something must have stood out for all 7 of those.
Yeah, I think philosophically for us, we want to path our interns into full-time employment. An internship from a business standpoint is kind of an extended job interview. So when we look at the individuals that we do offer internships to, we're looking for high potential individuals. We're looking for people that we project into being successful not only as an intern but potentially down the road. What sets people apart would be your curiosity, having that growth mindset. That's something that we talk about and ask about in our interviews, and we ask intern candidates to speak to. That's something I think we value as a firm at EAPC is continuous improvement, constantly learning. None of us have it all figured out. We all learn something new every day, and trying to see those traits in interns can set people apart. I think one of the other things that people sometimes don't talk about when they're interviewing with us for an internship is they think we only want to hear about the coursework and the industry specific questions that we're asking to, and they don't always, whether it's being in the service industry or doing some labor, there's so much value that those experiences bring, customer service, work ethic, teamwork, that, people like me as a recruiter want to hear about, and our managers want to hear about, because we're trying to evaluate how good you're going to fit in with the team. So all of those things, really, factor in.
Okay. So one thing I would like to make sure the interns know is that it's a two-way street, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a situation where they're feeling us out just as much as we're feeling them out. We want to make sure that they're a good fit for us, but they need to realize we're a good fit for them.
Yep, absolutely. It is a two-way street. I think one of the things that I've coached hiring managers that have brought interns on is that, we're getting some additional bandwidth. We're getting some project support. We're getting some, extra boots on the ground, to help out with projects. But really, for the student intern, it's an education experience. It's part of their education. And that's really what they're trying to get: project experience. They're trying to get mentorship. They're trying to take what they're learning in school and applying it to real world projects. So it's highly valuable. But at the same time, I think there's a cliche with interns in TV and movies that you're running to get donuts and you're grabbing coffee and you're kind of the low person on the, in the chain. But, really our goal is to get them, up to speed and a productive member of our project teams.
So getting back to the year that we hired 7 interns to full-time employment, there's a program with the Department of Commerce that we've been successful in getting a grant. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a great program. It's an investment North Dakota has made. Maybe you've heard of brain drain. When people go to college, professionals, and they leave North Dakota, I think it's a program where we're putting our money where our mouth is and trying to retain those professionals when they leave university and they stay in North Dakota. We have a lot of vibrant communities. North Dakota has a lot to offer graduates, and allowing businesses like us to receive a grant. So in a situation where maybe we would bring on, 1, 2, or 3 interns in a year, the grant allows us to bring in 5 or 6 or sometimes 7 or 8 interns. So it allows us the opportunity to bring more people in, expose them to what a professional career can be right in their backyard here in North Dakota. It's a great program, and it's really allowed us to boost our pipeline and to provide more mentorship and opportunity for students.
So the specifics in terms of how the grant works, is it a dollar amount per intern, or what's the max?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to get approved for the grant. It's a $5,000 per intern. It's a 50 cents on the dollar match. So it really offsets some costs for us as a business, which is a positive. But it's really a win-win, because while we get some cost offset in wage, it provides more opportunities for the students.
So what's interesting is we, as you know, have trouble filling some offices in terms of people wanting to go work in Williston or Minot or even Grand Forks in some cases. What I like about Operation Intern is the fact that it is for North Dakota students, North Dakota institutions. And I believe we were actually able to fill a spot in Williston, a spot in Bismarck, and a spot in Grand Forks of those 7.
Yep.
So really traditionally difficult places to place employees. So that was another reason I think that Operation Intern's a great asset for us.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We do have some geographic locations that are more challenging. Like North Dakota, we've had a very vibrant economy. We've been very resilient, even from the 2009 financial crisis and even coming out of COVID. Our economy's been strong, but one of the challenges has been labor shortages. So programs like Operation Intern that allow businesses like us to bring more interns on and to try to fill some of those difficult to fill geographic locations has been a huge plus.
So I'm going to go off script a little bit here. So there's that misconception out there, I think, for some interns that you don't get an internship right away that first year. It's difficult. And I would say, I know there's several architects and several engineers that work currently for EAPC that actually didn't do internships for engineering or architectural design companies. They actually went for an internship in the trades. So what would you say about someone going after working for a mechanical contractor for a year, or a general contractor if you're an architect student?
I think it's a great idea. It's a great experience. You're at an age where you're studying engineering, you're studying architecture, and you think you have an idea of what your profession, what your field's going to be. But there's so many ways you can go with it. And it's best, I think, to get out and see different ways that you can apply your degree and see what you like and see what you don't like. So you don't accept a job that you might not be happy in, or in an industry that you might not be happy in. Of course, when we bring interns on, we really hope that they're happy and they enjoy what we do, and the contributions we make to our community and the designs that impact their backyards. But I think it's healthy to kind of understand what else is out there. So we want you to feel good about the decision to join us if that opportunity comes.
Yeah. Well, specific examples of employees and even partners in this case at EAPC that really worked in the trades before they went to school or during school. Wayne Dietrich worked for a general contractor in his years at NDSU. Alan Dostert worked for a general contractor up in Minot. Anthony Corcoran actually worked full-time for Grants Mechanical as a installer before he even started college. And Corey Vaughn worked for his dad's lighting company. So we really have some great examples of engineers and architects that went to work in the trades prior to designing.
And those experiences do stand out in interviews. They've been in the field, they've interacted with, the different trades. They've seen a project come together, and it's not that you're sitting in your office or in your cubicle space, drawing and designing and seeing things on paper. You've been out in the field, and it definitely, those that have had those experiences, it shows.
In the human resources world, there maybe is a perception that the HR department is there to help the company, but also you think there's also an idea that HR department is there for the employees. How do you navigate that difference?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jim. Personally, I try to remain neutral. I like to be an advocate for our employees to make sure that we can strive to have a more positive work environment as we can. From working with our managers and our executive team as an advisor, I think there's a perception that we're the policy police, or we're pushing paper, or all we do is discipline or write people up, and oftentimes we're not the decision maker. We're working with the decision makers to make sure that we are following policy, that we are being fair, that we are being equitable, and it's a support. And sometimes there's you sit through some of the whole spectrum with employees, from the excitement of getting a new job or their first job at hire, to sitting with people in your office because of loss of a loved one or a serious health issue or something very significant going on in their life, or so you see the whole spectrum working with employees. And that's something I've tried to incorporate into my career, is walking both sides of that, understanding that we are a business, and part of my role is compliance and risk management and policy adherence, but at the same time being a conduit to have a pulse on what the employees are feeling, what they're going through, what they want, what our environments might need. And it's a balancing act you try to walk every day.
So one thing I love about you, Noah, and Amanda, is that the professionalism, and also you do kind of walk that line in terms of, let's say, an intern that gets hired at EAPC, that first salary negotiation. You do your research in terms of, if they're going to start in Phoenix, there's a different cost of living there. Yeah. And you actually go through the data and see what is the average intern straight out of architecture school or straight out of engineering school earning at this particular location. It's not like you're just kind of pulling it out of thin air. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So you're looking out for both, I think, the new hire, but also for EAPC's interest. So we're not overpaying, but we're also not underpaying that person.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes some of the guesswork or the subjectivity out when you use data, whether it's geographical data, whether it's data by position. And that really informs our range with employees, not only at the intern level, but at all levels of the company. We want to ensure that we're paying interns fairly. We want to make sure that we're paying people who've been here for 10, 5, 15 years fairly across the board. So it's something we constantly pay attention to. It takes the subjectivity out of it. If there's, whether it's cost of living increases because of inflation or geographical locations, we take all that into consideration and try to provide a fair and equitable salary administration process across the board.
So I'm going to go off script again, because what I also enjoy about having a really qualified and exceptional human resources department is when I first started at EAPC, there was only 55 employees, and the partners had to wear several hats. Like, we had one partner that was also the CFO, We had one partner that dealt with HR issues. We had one partner that was a marketing director. So when you are in a position of being a human resources director and you don't have any human resources experience, that's a scary affair. So now we're in a situation where, especially for a new intern, to understand that there is a process. If an employee is not performing, they are actually encouraged and put on a program that really helps them navigate that and become a better employee. Yeah. So you don't just say, well, this person's not doing well, we're going to terminate their employment. Yeah. So it's really nice to have an HR department that's skilled and experienced to navigate through those issues.
Thanks, Jim.
Well, it's time to wrap things up. I want to thank you, Noah, for being here. Your insight is always welcome, and your professionalism is outstanding.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me.